And when he got powerful and puffed up, he said, God snatched him down and he started eating with the donkeys in the field. And so and it was not until he was getting ready to die that he lost his pride and realized who God was all over again at that point and put the garments around his neck. But the Bible said before that night was out, King Darius, who we're talking about in chapter 6, had already came in and killed the king. And the word came to pass, not even 24 hours, but he was exalted to third highest ruler. Now, by the time that's the recap for verse 5 now, chapter 5, I'm going to say. So he already did something that the rest of the little people couldn't do. And he was already highlighted. He was already on a pedestal, all right? And according to them, you're representing the wrong God. How many of y'all know when you represent our God, there's always a fight that comes from somewhere? No matter how right you are, no matter how good you're trying to do, there's always going to be some level of fight that comes from some direction. I don't care what's going to happen. Amen? Amen. Okay. I want you to make sure you understand that. But the biggest deal is where we're at now, is that King Darius, who is now king, decided to put Daniel in position. Amen? Y'all hear me? You talking to me?
Yeah. Amen.
He chose Daniel and 2 other administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interests. And soon Daniel proved himself to be more capable than all of the other administrators and the high officers. And because of Daniel's great ability, the king made plans to place him over the entire empire. So you go from being the third highest ruler in the land to being over the entire empire. Your obedience to God, though sometimes when you're a real prophet or when you're really speaking what thus says the Lord, you can speak what thus says the Lord and not necessarily be a prophet. It's not all just squares into a prophet box. But if you speak what thus says the Lord, sometimes there's going to be some kickback that happens for the people. It's not always going to be house, car, hugs, kisses, and flowers. Amen? Amen. Sometimes there's going to be correction. And we got to know how to do it because we're in a different dispensation. We're not in the same era that Daniel was in. That's right. We're in a grace time now. We're supposed to be preaching Jesus. Daniel was saying, you don't change it. And the other prophets at that time were saying, if you don't shift your mindset, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're going to die. Or you deserve to die. It was time. Right. Can't go around calling fire down on people to kill everybody like Elijah. It's aimed so that you don't have to pay the penalty for not being able to walk out the law because you couldn't do it. Amen? Well, here Daniel is in a predicament, in a situation that he obeyed God, somebody died, and he had to, in a manner of speaking, bend his will to another authority, to another king, somebody he wasn't used to, but he exalted. Somebody say exalted. Exalted. He was exalted for his obedience. How many of y'all know you're going to be exalted for your obedience? Do you know it? Amen. Y'all stop tonight. You better stop. I can't shop for you on your own stuff. Amen. Listen to this right here. God speaks what he's getting ready to do for the people. Amen. We don't say what thus said the Lord, and it doesn't happen. You got to learn how to put your stuff where it applies. Yes, ma'am. You got to understand that that's coming or something, because we know the story. But what we don't commonly teach, we teach that, he was just all right. He did all this stuff, and he was just thrown into the lion's den. Listen, he was exalted before he went to the lion's den. Oh, God. Serious. Hallelujah. From third highest ruler to number 1 ruler. And because, we're going to call them lions, because they're going to be the lions that's in your life. Mm-hmm. Because those 2-legged lions decided that they didn't like the fact that he had too much authority. Yeah. He was being favored too much by the new king. See, when somebody new comes on the scene and they don't know much about you, those two-legged lions can try to slip in and spew poison into the ears of the ones who have authority over you and try to change the viewpoint of you to them so they can get high.
My God.
See, couldn't do it when the old king was there because they already knew what they was about. But see, now the old king is kicked out of position. The old boss just was fired, so now the new boss, I'm trying to help you since y'all can't get in the spirit real quick. So the new boss just came on the job. And they didn't like you because you was employee of the month a couple of months ago. They didn't think you deserved it. So the new boss just came in. The other boss might have been promoted. And here they come. You know what? I'm just going to drop something about. So I'm going to tell you, don't say that because I don't, Hey girl, how you doing? Smiling face.
Come on now.
That's right.
Preach.
Mercy.
4. Then the other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs. I like the fact that I like the way this reads because it says he was handling government affairs. You can't be ignorant and handle government affairs. You can't be unlearned and handle government affairs. You can't be a flip-flop and handle government affairs. You can't be wishy-washy and handle government affairs. There's so many people walking the earth today hollering about their prophet. But you can't handle your affairs. Let alone handling government affairs.
Come on now.
He was made number 1 in the empire because of what he saw. The Bible says that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Amen. Daniel didn't just get over on the word that God gave him. He was actually working and being effective and being proactive and actually producing in being in the world that he was in. The question that they asked, they said, when the woman went to go get Daniel to start with, she said, I know one of the people who were exiled, who came in, who Nebuchadnezzar brought in from Israel to bring over here. It said he was known for being an Israelite, known for being one of the Hebrews. He could have got over on that. He's one of the chosen people. But the verse is getting ready to highlight, and I'm going to say something y'all don't like. It's all right, but it's going to help us. It's going to help us. Push your neighbors. It's going to help us. Listen. But they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. They couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful. Listen to the description now. Always responsible and completely trustworthy.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Read one more time. Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy.
Wow.
So they concluded our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be in connection with the rules of his religion. People of God, we love to talk about how we're being persecuted and talk about how people are trying to find fault in us and how they hating on us. But could they find some area in your life to criticize or condemn? When somebody's looking at your life, can they find you to be completely trustworthy? Wow. Can they find you to be totally faithful? The word that was used was always responsible.
Serious.
Before we get to a point of where we want to get mad because people are coming against us, we need to really check are we doing the best that we can do?
Come on now.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
What is the character saying about you?
Jesus.
The times when nobody's looking. The times when nobody's riding your back. What's going on there? Before we quickly extract scripture and put a big old sticker right on your chest and say, oh, I'm going through like Daniel. Were you diligent? Were they unable to find fault? Were they unable to condemn? If you want a point, that's your first point. Examine yourself. Even though you have position and title or calling in the Lord, it does not exempt you from excellence.
Amen. Oh my God.
He had the favor of the Lord, but he had the favor of 3-4 kings at this point. Some of us got the favor of the Lord, but nobody else. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Amen.
You got the favor of the Lord, and don't nobody like you.
Nobody.
Favor of the Lord, you've been fired off every job you've been on.
Jesus.
Favor of the Lord, you add in your blank. If we want to take on the Daniels in the lion's den scenario where you feel like you're persecuted for no reason and you're being persecuted for your religion and for you just standing for the cause of Christ, make sure you don't have no cracks in the board, baby.
Amen. Hallelujah.
It's victory in the story. But all scripture is made for rebuke and reproof. So to conclude, the only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be connections with the rules of the religion. So the administrators and the high officers went to the king and said, long live the King Darius. We are all in agreement, we administrators, officials, high officers, advisors, and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. And now, your majesty, issue and sign this law so it cannot be changed. Somebody say cannot be changed.
Cannot be changed.
An official law of Medes and the Persians that cannot be revoked. So King Darius signed the law. That's verse 9. Let me tell you, people and things and the enemy, we don't have to always just use people, but we can use the demonic forces. They'll go and see. Demonic forces will go to people. You ever had anybody promise to bless you? You ever had a situation where you knew you basically had the job, the folks said you had the job, you felt like it was all right, everything was straight, and then all of a sudden somebody just had a change of heart somewhere, it didn't make no sense, people just didn't come, they came to you and said, I'm gonna give you $500, the Lord told me that I gotta do this, it's been on me for months, I just gotta do it, and he's like, okay, well praise the Lord, thank you, all right, in Jesus' name, and then it just, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days,
Months later, years later,
pages and everything else passed.
Right, years later.
Transpires, no conversation, no nothing. The job goes to somebody else. They don't even have a real answer for why this happened. Because see, demons whisper in people's ears. Remember the times that we would be all singing, me and this man, and some random person would walk up and be a millionaire and say, God told me that you got a cleaning business. And I got a soul in your cleaning business. And I'm going to pay for everything. At least 3-4 times. We ain't had no sign on. We didn't ask nobody nothing. We drove to South Carolina to meet some people. That he told us to come down there. He said, when you come down here, I'm going to have a check. Yep. We didn't ask for him to have a check. It wasn't for me. I just went to driving. I was just supporting. I was praising God for his blessing. The man put off stuff. He just never had a real reason for why he didn't do it. The other one didn't have a real reason why he didn't do it. Made it. Come on, when you was late for a meeting, he beat him to all the meetings. But the one thing we saw was every time one didn't do it, there was another one that was raised up.
Amen.
And then when that didn't do it,
Amen.
there was another one that was raised up.
Glory, glory, glory.
And when that one didn't do it, there was another one that was raised up. What am I saying? Demons come in and squeeze people, and come in and whisper things. And say, God does not control people's will.
Amen.
You understand that? God does not control the wills of the people. He squeezes us and he pushes us. But if we choose to listen to an outside influence, he just raises up another. And he raises up another. God bless them with the cleaning company, but it didn't come through not one of them. And some of them must call and trying to figure out how they could possibly try to get in on what he was doing. Didn't have a real reason for why they didn't do it. You know what they said they were going to do. Demons, spirits, influence. Demons would use people to whisper things. And so that's why you got to pray, even after the breakthrough comes. You get the answer, you got to keep on warning. Part of the reason that I was shouting up here a little earlier was because last year, it would be another month or so, but almost 12 months ago, I started my trucking company. And he looked at me and he said, I see $250,000 coming to you. And whole church, we just went up. He said, shout for your father. I was dancing, shouting, all kinds of stuff, everybody was. And 2 days later, I lost every contract I had. But God restored everything. And, you know, we well on our way working towards what the Lord said he was going to do in less than a year. And so I had to give God praise because I was exalted, it started, and the money was flowing, but then nothing. I worked hard, I stayed out all night long, I was risking my life and other people's lives, driving, I had to pull over, and it took my contract because I decided I wasn't going to risk somebody's life because I was sleeping. It's a 26-foot truck. I said, I don't care about your package, I'm going to sleep. I ain't going to kill me and nobody else to try to get this back. You can't understand it? That's fine.
Amen.
And I took a stand. He was cussing on the phone. You don't talk to me like that, bro. Have a good day. I said, well, I guess I won't work with him no more. God squeezed his heart. And he's been an open blessing to me.
Amen.
Constantly adding routes and constantly adding. The exaltation came, then the pit. And all in that situation, the people who were around the other guy that I was working for kept saying, I don't want Cedric to work with us. I don't want Rashad's truck down here. And it was the boss that kept saying, no, I want to keep feeding him stuff. This is a different company. Now, this is two different companies that was happening at the same time. He kept saying, if I was to listen to everybody around me, they don't want you in here. Half of that was because they were lying and cheating, and I want just to go for it like the rest of them folk would, and I want to get ready to do it. But he kept on feeding me stuff. He kept saying, I want to keep bringing you in. But the people who were constantly throwing the dirt had to always be the one communicating with me. And I had to be in the moment of go off on them because I know what you're saying about me. And I don't want to answer the phone, you better get out of my face. Or communicate with the enemy. Now walk with me now. Just walk. They said for the king to enter in a decree that even he couldn't rescind.
Wow.
Now this is also a picture of God. Because God had to send Jesus. Because he just couldn't say, don't worry about sin. Because he said, my word will never return void. That's right. So he had to send somebody who was worthy enough to die. And the contract that he spoke with his word could not be rescinded without somebody being a living sacrifice. That's right. This is the lesson when you read the Old Testament. there's always pictures of Jesus. Okay? Let me hand give God praise. Verse 9 says, so King Darius signed the law. But when David learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual. Somebody say as usual.
As usual.
In his upstairs room with its windows open towards Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done. Somebody say always done.
Always done.
Giving thanks to God. 2 things that we just said was as usual and always done. We first started out talking about how he was always diligent. He was always responsible. He was completely trustworthy. He was always where he's supposed to be. He had been praying as usual, as he had always done, giving thanks to God. This was not a new thing. This was not a stance or a rebellion move to say, hey, you can't tell me who to pray. You can't tell me not to pray to my God, so you go home and just start praying on purpose. This was the room he already had set up. That's right. This was the place he already had pointing towards Jerusalem, as his custom required. Don't find yourself opposite Daniel trying to do something that you ain't even doing no way.
Come on now.
My God.
Come on.
Hallelujah, Jesus. Glory to God. Y'all want to tune up? No.
That's right.
Amen.
This is as usual. Always what he had already been doing. We got to get to a point, people of God, where we're actually diligent to that which we confess.
Amen.
It's easy to tell what people's lifestyle are when we come in for prayer and you can't pray no more than 2-3 minutes. You can't lift our hands. You can't praise. And or even those who we used to have a big push, and we kind of got away from the stuff that we were doing, and you see a decline. It's because you got to be diligent to your personal time.
That's right.
Because he's watching you in your personal time.
Mm-hmm.
What you do in your personal time determines what elevation you get.
Amen.
You got to be diligent. You got to do your job. You got to turn your stuff in. You got to be ready to do what God has called you to do. Not just the thing with the, you got to be ready. He got to trust you to speak his word. He's got to trust you to declare something openly to a major a government official. I want to go to the nations, Lord. Well, you didn't go to the gas station when the Lord told you to go.
Amen.
You was late into the gas pump. So you're going to be late to the airplane to go to the nations. We want to profess this prophet thing, but where's your prophet actions?
Not.
Hear me? Because see, greater is coming, but greater is being required.
Yep.
We already have seen thus far, back up the parts, okay? We already have seen thus far how he became exalted. He was, this was by the time he's getting ready to be persecuted for what he was doing, he said, for what he was already doing as usual. And if that's what he was doing as usual, God could count on him praying. God could count on him being in position. So that's why when it was time for somebody to read the writing on the wall, why don't you go ahead on and call Daniel? Daniel can tell. Why? Because Daniel was in relationship with God. Daniel was always talking to the Lord. God's not going to talk to you if he can't trust you.
Amen.
That's right.
He's not going to give you no authority if he can't trust you to take it no further than hit that street. And time that one little word come out to you, right? You walk around, you tell what I told somebody that it came to pass. You give me 2 minute testimony about what you did, I start looking sideways at you. Because you better remember the reason why that last king got pulled down.
Come on
He
now.
said, I said, I didn't read it to you, but he said, I feel the Holy Ghost now.
Come on.
He said the reason that he was pulled down is because of pride. He said, but you have recognized everything and every other God except for the one who gives you direction,
Come on now.
who gives you life.
Amen.
Look what I'm about shutting it on the boat saying.
Wow.
He said, so because of that, your time is up.
Oh my God.
You know, don't go shut that one up. Every message is not going to feel good, and I'm perfectly all right with delivering it.
Amen.
Because in the end of the day, if we can't exalt and move forward and move where God will want us to go, then what are we doing? Don't you know that Durham is looking at you?
That's right.
How they got so many prophets coming out here? Everybody a prophet? No, they're not. But the fact of the matter is that God's got to raise somebody up to train what's in the region.
That's right.
Somebody put something on Facebook the other day. The world is saturated with pastors. But pastors ain't mentioned but one time in the Bible.
I'm telling you.
Apostles, 75 times, and the prophets millions of times.
Yeah.
But we just full of pastors. And then we try to figure out why we're not balanced. Why you got people in churches that don't know how to prophesy, because they're not able to teach you this.
Wow.
Right.
So now, here we stand and we see, I've seen people's lives change. I see people come here, halfway know who they are, and start prophesying like crazy. Been in church for years, been in maybe powerful ministries, but because that's what God placed on my life. It's not because of me, it's what He put in me to do. It's about the job.
That's right. That's what it is. That's right.
And we produce what's inside of us. A tree is known by the what? Fruit. The woman of God said last night, she said, I had to come to Durham to check this stuff out. She said, because I saw too many chips off of the stone. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She said, I saw too many chips off the stone. I saw too many people being concerned about deliverance, too many people being powerful. Everybody was connected to the power church. I need to see what the rock looked like.
Mm-hmm. Glory.
Wow.
Thank you, Jesus.
But only thing the rock looked like is what my father looked like because I did what he told me to do.
Amen.
I pushed where he told me to push. So you better understand, Durham is going to be watching you when you say you come out of the power church because they want to understand what's so powerful about the power church. What's up with all this prophet stuff? What's going on with that? So when you professing prophetic things and walking a prophetic walk, you got to understand what God is requiring out of you.
Amen.
It's more than just bearing the name of Christ. It's more than you just walking around saying, I heard God. But what is the character that's following you?
Come on now. That's right.
What do they say about you? Amen now.
Amen.
What's your reputation? I know what my reputation was. But God said, what you uncover, He'll cover.
That's right.
Amen.
And what you cover, He'll expose. And so, the Bible says, the prophet not honored among his home country, in his own relatives, and in his own house. But see, after a while, when God worked you over, those folk who didn't want to hear nothing from you, no people that you couldn't even prophesy to, that you couldn't say, all of a sudden, can you interpret this dream for me? Congratulations on your ministry, you're doing good. But I remember 10 years ago, they said, nobody ever follow you.
Yep.
Look what you done done.
That's it.
Look at the attitude that you had. And I didn't want no call from the Lord. I was just fine doing what I was doing. But I felt the push of God. And when God is pushing you, not yourself, I don't need all that right now, brother. When God is pushing you, and you got the nerve to say yes, that yes means everything.
Amen.
It just might cost you everything.
Amen.
That's a real word.
So let's say even if you've done everything right, you've been diligent, you've been focused, you've been totally trustworthy, you've been totally responsible, you've been praying as usual, not prayer every so often, but as usual. Your place was set up. Up there in the upstairs room, like Daniel.
That's right.
Pointing towards Jerusalem, pointing towards the east. You ain't Muslim, but you in there praying. You're doing all you can. You think everything's good. The old boss done went away. You thought, oh Lord, I don't know who I'm be dealing with. And the new boss come in and say, I heard good things about you, doing well. You're going to be team lead. You're going to be this, you're going to be whatever. You're exalted in front of everybody. And you think, well, it's time for me to breathe. I'm good now. I got here. Wait to exhale. But then here comes hell. And so because they couldn't stop him, they couldn't find fault, they found policy
Wow.
to get the king tied up.
Wow.
So he couldn't even go back on it once he found out who it was. So the Bible reads, and when they went and found him praying and doing what he usually did, they went and got the king and asked him, said, didn't you sign a decree that you couldn't reverse? He said, yeah, I signed it. Then it told him who was violating the order. But they were afraid that they told him who was violating, he wouldn't take him down because he was his what? Chief advisor, who handled all of his governmental affairs. See, the devil is tricky on how he wants to take you down.
That's right.
He even try to use the people that you got favor with, tie them up, so they got to let you go and there's nothing they can do about it. I remember when they let me go from Wells Fargo, Marcus, his name was Marcus. Yes, it was. Forgot about that. I don't hear him, but his name was Marcus. Marcus reached across the table. He was trying to get my hands, and his hands were shaking because he knew I had 2 kids at the house and a wife, and his hands were shaking. He said, man, you're a good man. You're a good man, and you pray. And he was just stuck. I said, man, just stop. Man, just stop. I said, it's all right. I said, it won't none of my business getting in here. I said, I don't even know how they got my application. I never figured it out. So, I've been here for 5 years, and every job I've ever been on was made up, and I was the first one in the department. I said, is God's business getting me in here, and is God's business getting me out? Amen. This job is a resource. It's the resource. My God is the source. I'm going to be taken care of. But he didn't want to let me go. He was just, his hand was just nervous, and I had to grab his hand to steady him. They wouldn't even let me go back to my desk to get my stuff out like I was going to create a wall. I was glad to be gone. You had to be afraid at that moment, because he shut in all the walls around me, and I didn't have no way of escape. Every time they tried to come against me, there was a piece of paper, there was a person, there was something that got me out of it. They tried to set me up many days. But when it was over with, there was nowhere to go. I was boxed in on all sides. I said, okay, God, you're in control of my life. So this is what time it is. It's time for me to go.
Wow.
Amen. And I submitted to the will and the direction he had for me in my life. Somebody say my life.
My life.
Take your hand real quick. So I submit to the direction, and the will that God has for my life. In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
And give God praise. I had to praise God all the way out of there because I knew what I had to go home to. I knew what I had to deal with. I knew I had car payments. I knew I had rent to pay. I knew I had this to take care of. I knew this thing was happening. And on the way home, on the 40, not even 10 minutes from the job, my buddy calls, hey man, I just sold one of the cars we got. Come pick up your $1,000. And so you got to know when God is giving you a reminder to say that I'm here and I'm not going to let you fail. Don't just, where we mess up at, God bless us and we just throw it in the trash.
Wow.
God bless us all, he's supposed to bless us. No, it's your reminder to keep going.
Amen.
It's your message that in the middle of it, you got to bless him in the middle of it.
Amen.
In the middle of the situation. It's not over. It's just beginning. I made more money being off that job than ever been sitting in the walls wishing I could go outside in the sun every so often. I thank God told me, and I went to school and all that kind of stuff. I hated school. I went to school because they told me I needed to. I performed because they told me I needed to. And it was 3-point-some GPA, not because I love to read, not because I wanted to do it, but because I said that's the only way I'm going to make money. That's what it said. When you're going to make money, you got to go to school. And I knew I didn't want to be poor and asking nobody for money and all this kind of stuff. So I pushed my way through and made myself do it. Hello?
Hello.
Amen.
Amen.
Hello?
Amen.
But my people that you do what's necessary, not what's comfortable.
Amen.
Do what you gotta do, not what you want to do.
Amen.
I got news for you. I want what God got for me. Well, I'm reading to you right now that the process of the Lord seems to be the majority of the time that you're gonna go through.
Amen.
While you're doing what He calls you to do, it's not gonna be comfortable. So don't think that you can just, skate away and get away from something that's necessary. I'm waiting on God for me. Okay, that's not going to be no pie and cake. It's going to be trial and tribulation. Focus. Dedication. Responsibility. Come on, Jesus. And they told the king, that man Daniel, one of the captains from Judah, is ignoring you and your law. He's still praising his God 3 times a day. Hearing this, the king was deeply troubled. And he tried to think of a way to save Daniel. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of this predicament. Some things we just going to be stuck in. And people going to want to help us, and they can't help us. Their hands going to be tied. And you know, and that's a good thing, because it teaches you how to call on Jesus.
Amen.
Glory to God. Glory to God.
Everybody clap for that. Clap.
Amen.
And your own self. Oh, I hear you, Lord. I like it, Lord.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Whether you can just pull yourself, Lord, okay, Lord, all right. Tell you how to make it. Because sometimes God, I see the phone call, sometimes I see the need. I see the need in the spirit. God, you can't call, no. They've had to seek me for this.
Amen.
That's hard. I've seen this man in, some of the worst predicaments in his life. I said, man, you know, I got some money, I can just go. And I was shaking my head saying, I can't do it. And the same thing, I said, man, God told me you can't do it. I got to wait on this. That's a hurting thing when you got somebody that's been there for you now. I don't mean, you know, some people, the comedian said last night, he said, the best advice I can give you, he said, is for poor people, is that don't answer the phone. If you got a friend in need, don't answer the phone. He said, wait 2 weeks and the whole problem be solved. You have to worry about it and all kind of stuff. He said, won't he do it? Yes, he will. Work it out? Yes, he will. But, you know, it's not easy to turn your back when person has been there for you, been listening ear, done all they can. And then you got the ability and the means to help. And God said, no. Because he's trying to teach you to lean on him. Y'all hear what I'm telling you now?
Amen.
Ain't no lines then is a shouting sermon. Not today. It's time for us to grow up.
Amen.
In the evening, the men went together to the king and said, Your Majesty, you know that according to the law, no law that the king signs can be changed. So at last the king gave orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the lion's den. The king said to him, May your God, whom you serve faithfully, rescue you.
Yes.
Now, usually, we can look at that statement as a sarcastic statement. But reading what we just read prior to, he's sincerely hoping that the reason that he even, knows Daniel's name, that his God is going to come through for him.
Amen.
I'm sure he heard about him interpreting the writing on the wall. I'm sure he heard about all the other dreams and things that he interpreted. How many times that God had been with him. And even let alone all the good works that he had done for him. But this is a genuine statement. But usually we'll look at this as an opportunity to say, that's a sarcastic, man, your God. That's what the witch doctor told Kiana. He said, you're going to need your pastor or whoever she called him. And we was fighting that demon toe to toe. She was sending spirits and we was fighting right in front of her. You're going to need him. You're going to need your God. And when the corporate time, you're going to need him. God answered my prayer. All my legal fees and everything was paid for. Let me call him my God. He's going to rescue me.
Amen.
I don't know about you, but he's going to rescue me.
Yes.
Stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the king. The king sealed the stone, and with his own royal seal and the seals of his nobles, so that no one could rescue Daniel. And y'all know about the movies and stuff, when they put the seal on there?
Oh, yeah.
And the king put his seal on it, nothing can go outside of it. Nobody can go against it. It's got to go forward. Because think about the amount of people who probably want to rise up and save Daniel.
Yeah.
This was a situation where nobody could help him. Nobody had the power to rescue him out of this situation except for God himself. I don't know about you, but I've been there a few times.
Amen. Hallelujah.
But because I've been there, I now know that he'll get me out of anything.
Yes, sir. Come
I
on, Holy
now
Ghost.
know that sometimes some things he got me out of was pure grace and mercy.
Yes, Lord.
Because I was not diligent. I was not responsible.
That's right. That's right.
I was not totally trustworthy. Like these are the words that was described concerning Daniel. You probably could find some criticism. You could find an area to condemn me. He rescued me anyway, man. Paid my rent anyway. Took care of the car payment anyway. Even though I said no, I wasn't going to do what he wanted me to do all that time. And as soon as I said yes, less than 7 hours later, he produced the job for me. I'm talking about real stuff. I ain't talking about no, I'm not talking about no made up, he will, he might. I'm talking about stuff that he's already done. I've seen him do it, and I know he will.
Jesus.
Amen.
But you got to understand that your exaltation moment might just
Jesus now.
precede a fall. Because the devil won't knock you down. And if you're not praying as usual, if you're not always going to your upper room, because that was his little upper room,
Okay.
you might not have the same rescue from the mouth of the lion. Lord have mercy, Jesus.
Hallelujah.
And the king returned to his palace and spent the night fasting. He refused his usual entertainment and couldn't sleep all night long. That'll answer some questions to some of y'all. Say, can I watch TV while I'm fasting? Very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish. That means he was in pain. Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God whom you serve so faithfully able to rescue you from the lions? Daniel answered, long live the king. Listen, he won't say long live King Jesus. He had to acknowledge the king that he was talking to, the one that put him in there and put his seal on it. Because when you are dedicated to, when you're in the land of the living and you know order and protocol, he had to address him right, even though he put him in there because he got the power to roll away the door. Even though God shut the mouth of the lion, he still got to move the stone.
Glory.
Lord have mercy. What are you hollering about? Because you know the fact of the matter is, we shout too early sometimes. You ain't out of the cave yet.
Come on.
God has saved you, but your attitude might let you suffocate.
Sir, come on.
If the stone is not rolled away, where are you going to get your oxygen from? God still calls them to submit to the very order that put him in there. Lord have mercy. I'm sure you have a different take on this thing today. It's all right. I love that. They answered, long live the king. It's the same thing they said in verse 1. My God sent his angels to shut the lion's mouth so they would not hurt me. For I have been found innocent in his sight. Somebody say in his sight.
In his sight.
Have you been found innocent in his sight? Somebody ought to get happy for Jesus right there.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
For the
Thank you,
courtroom
God.
of heaven,
Hallelujah.
the devil came to accuse you
Hallelujah.
with every sin
Hallelujah,
that you
Jesus.
were guilty of.
Glory.
But Jesus stood up and told the defense attorney, I plead the blood.
Come on, Lord.
Glory to God. Hallelujah, Jesus.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
Woo! I just had a flashback of every man and everything that I ever did in my life. So he found me worthy to get up here and hold the mic.
Thank you, Jesus.
I don't know what's wrong, y'all, but I just want to run. But I got to get ready. I got to finish.
Lord, God, I thank you.
Oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God.
He said he was found innocent in God's sight.
Thank you.
He said, and I have not wronged you, your majesty. Still addressing him in a way of respect when he should have cost him his life. Prophets, we got sharp attitudes. We got even quicker mouths. Looking at this example, did he tell you to go against one who is your authority? In whatever situation that you're in, did he tell you to run your mouth? Can you lean on that attribute of your calling as an excuse according to the word of God? King was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted from that den. Not a scratch was found on him. But he had trusted in his God. What would happen if he doubted? It said, he said, not a scratch was found. For he trusted. Which means that the trust was the determining factor that there was no scratch. Prophets, how many times you have told God you was through? You was done. You was tired of this. Why you got to go through this? If I'm human, I can doubt. Somebody told me I was vulnerable. Come on now. For he trusted. Well, there's grace. But how do we know that that next situation that we in,
Thank you,
that he's not looking for complete trustworthiness? He's not looking for total responsibility for you to get out of that. That's the question. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah for our past victories. But remember when David was fighting? And he asked God, can I go take on the Philistines? He said, yeah, but this time wait and look to the trees, because they changed the way they were coming at it. He fought these same people, I don't know how many times. He could have been confident that he was just going to win and didn't ask God nothing. But this time, God said, don't move. They're coming a different way this time. You don't know how the devil is coming at you this time.
Right.
And you can't afford to be in a whiny, crying baby place.
Exactly.
You got to walk in that anointing that you claim that you own.
Yes, sir.
That you claim that you earned. That you stood and you fought for with your blood, your sweat, and your tears. Sometimes it's going to take you to stand.
Amen.
In the face of a lion. It's got all the authority and all the power to take you off. This thing said, at the end, it said, delivered him from the power of the lion. Then the king gave orders to arrest the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He had them thrown into the lion's den along with their wives and children. The lions leaped on them and tore them apart before they even hit the floor of the den. I warn you before you put your mouth on an anointed man or woman of God, that if you don't want your family life messed up, you better be careful. These are not my words. This is what happens here. The Old Testament is the mind of God. But you can understand. That's how God, the Father, thinks. Amen.
Amen.
You got to be careful. We don't rejoice. You don't want to see nobody's family messed up.
Amen.
Because of the stupid decisions that somebody may decide, trying to come against one of God's anointed. I hate to tell you, but I've seen it happen.
Amen.
I hate to declare this on the night, but because somebody chose to come against me in this ministry. But I don't think it was 2 weeks later. We stood outside and we prayed in a circle. We didn't pray against her. God all of a sudden had us start praying for her. We started asking for mercy. We started asking for mercy, and all of a sudden I started seeing ambulances going up and down the street. And it was what was the name of the street that was on the side?
Maple?
It
No.
was a street that right beside it.
It's right there off the driveway.
Maple is on the, it's
It
Maple.
ain't Maple. It's the one beside.
It's Maple. We was on Maple.
Ash.
Ash.
Ash. We saw ambulances in the street going up and down Ash Street. By the time the New Year came in, we was in a new spot that God allowed us to go in. And it was like, and we had put the microphone and stuff on the outside of the church. And I was just declaring. It's like I was preaching to somebody I couldn't see. I just couldn't let it go. Couldn't let it go. And come to find out, that woman's son was dead behind a house on Ash Street. She tried to come against our ministry. She tried to stop us from being in that building, which they gave us the key, wanted us to be there. She came in and she spewed all kind of lies. She did exactly what this said. She went to the king. She went to the pastor.
That's right.
And spewed lies. And they got the other members to go along, some other members to go along with it. And because he said, man, I want to give you these keys. He said, but I'm outvoted. I can't give you the keys. And he had took the keys from the other people who had came against us and gave them to us. Took them from in front of us. But they started pulling lies and started throwing darts. And we just said, you know what? The prophet stepped up. He said, I'll tell you what, he said, this is what the Lord said. He said, how you handle us is going to determine how God handles the situation. He said, what do you mean? He said, just what I said. He said, I don't talk much. He said, I don't come against nobody. He said, but that is what it is. When that situation happened, 3 or 4 folk when the church started calling us, you want to come back? You want to come back? We told her to shut her mouth that night. We told her to shut her mouth. Didn't do it. We told her to shut her mouth. We want y'all to come back. I said, no, man, we stayed. We was in another place before 24 hours up. I said, stop that right there, though. I said, we didn't pray for nobody to die. I said, but the fact of the matter is, see, we didn't start our church. God did this thing.
Amen.
So when you come against this, you come against him. You ain't come against me. I
Amen.
wasn't sitting around with somebody here practicing how to be a preacher when I was 10 years old, like some people did. Desiring some kind of office, and granddaddy and great-granddaddy and great-great-granddaddy was preaching. No, it wasn't like that, baby. I just was available.
Amen.
Didn't want to, but I was available. So this is what the Lord said do. And we come to find out that the boy who killed him said, it's either I kill you or I'm going to kill all your 10 brothers and sisters in the house.
Jesus.
That's what he said.
It's what he said. That's serious. That's not a shouting moment. That's nothing to rejoice about. But somebody running their mouth, talking too much, that cost you the life. And we stood there with that boy in the church one night before all of it happened. And we were declaring into his life. God was showing us what he wanted him to be. He was standing there with his hands lifted, praying in the Holy Ghost. And that same big mouth joker over there interrupting the prayer, talking about you can't come to God any kind of way.
Yep.
You nasty, you this.
Yep.
And she got to live with that today.
Jesus.
You did that. I didn't do it.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
That's what she said.
You can't come against God's stuff. And when you stand and trust God in the face of a bunch of lions, we done had some of the biggest churches in Durham have meetings about us. Y'all heard, some of y'all heard this before, some of y'all haven't. Figure out how they can stop us and look too much like the previous ministry.
That's right.
But God allowed us to do more in 2 years than what half of them done in 12. Not by manipulation, no witchcraft, just by slap obedience. I'm here standing before you tonight as a living witness that God will deliver you out of the mouth of a whole bunch of lions. But you got to trust God. You got to stand before him as usual. as usual. You got to develop a prayer life. You got to be diligent to what he called you to do. You got to be responsible. You got to go do some stuff that you may not want to do. Paul had all kind of education that he didn't use because he was a tent maker. He could have just got money from the church people. He said, but I'm going to keep my bragging rights. That's what he said.
That's the word.
So I can keep bragging that I ain't getting nothing from y'all. So let me keep on building my tents with my 4 and 5 degrees. But when the time came for him to open up his mouth for the use of the kingdom, the degrees and the knowledge started being used for God's purposes, not for his own. Every conspirer is thrown to the lions, and their wives and their children. Women, you better be careful who you marry. You don't want no spiritual lions on you because of what your husband got going on. Because that's the order of the house. He got, and they got it too. This is some serious stuff. There's a lot of components in this message for real when you preach it and you want somebody to change. You can pick a couple of parts out and go on and shout and all that kind of stuff. But I need you to go back and study this, figure out why he was delivered. What caused him to be successful? He was a child of God. He was a child of God. Yes, he was. But he was diligent. He was good at what he did. He was a star performer. It's just like saying, me and you, we black. My mom used to say, you got to do the job 4 or 5 times better than everybody else because of your skin color. Women, you got to do it 6 times better because according to the world, because you're black and you're woman. That's real talk. Nobody's going to hand us anything. I got it halfway, a little slight air better than you got. You see the light? Oh, okay. Ain't no that. One guy we like today. He was an exile from Judah. They looked at them like they were nothing. What you gonna do? How you gonna handle your authority? With all the mishaps and the aggravations and the undercutting that already exists, that is us. You don't have time to be a slapper. You don't have time to be somebody that's untrustworthy. You don't have time for not to be a real example of what you call yourself. So the question becomes, are we not exalted because we were not what Daniel was? Suffering comes with the exaltation comes with diligence and being able to bear God's name and being called who God called us, right? So what is the real reason that some of us are still sitting in the same spot? Is it the enemy or is it how we handle God's business? If we look at the example of Daniel, it looks like God was in every area of his life. We've been on this a little long, but I'm trying to do what God is telling me to do on the night. Time to take a real look, y'all. How many of y'all want what God really has for you? We're going to have to go to some uncomfortable places. Some of that stuff going to make you feel bad, and make you feel rejected, and make you feel whatever. And we'll have to burn that up on the inside. Deal with it. Why are you not dealing with it? Why I'm not responsible? Why I'm always late? Why I'm always pissed? What is going on? What do I plan? What do I put in front of this? What's happening with me? This is what I told the leaders because I got them doing certain things. Is it your heart to find a loophole in the room? Or is it your heart to just do what God is requiring us to do? Are we commonly living our life to find a way through it, to weasel out? Or do we make plans to do what God would have us to do? Are we forethinking concerning him? Or do I just need enough of a legal plan to get me free from that obligation? And that's going to determine whether you love him for real. Whether you're dedicated for real. The Daniel was praying, he didn't have no elevation. He was praying in spite of the elevation.
Amen.
When he came to make him the third highest ruler, he said, keep your gifts or give them to somebody else. But I will tell you, put the right on the wall, said, God Almighty. But he insisted that he have them apparently because he put the robes on. But he didn't go with, yes, I want to be blessed. Yes, I'm ready for this. Yes. He couldn't be bought. How hard is it to tell the truth? Because it could have killed him for the message that came out of his mouth.
That's right.
Happened to Jeremiah to try to kill him.
That's right.
Every time he told the truth, he could have killed him for telling him that he was going to die. Lord, let him live long enough to put them clothes on him and exalt him. He died that same night. Y'all, it's a fight sometimes to be in the things of God. But the exaltation came. The elevation was there.